Okay, so we're going to review Dorian Gray. We're about halfway through the book now. So just from chapters 11 through, we're going to actually go all the way through 15 today. So let's talk a little bit here. Okay, so as we went over yesterday, Chapter 11 is purposely boring. Oscar Wilde wanted to show that a life that is just spent in pursuit of pleasure eventually can become tedious. Dorian has no deeper meaning in his life. He only pursues kind of art for art's sake, for beauty and pleasure. He's hedonistic to the point of depravity, and chapter 11, the language is very repetitive and circular in order to kind of paint a picture for the reader just how tedious Dorian's life has become. So this section of the novel becomes a catalog of Dorian's sins. We see in great detail the nature of his hedonistic lifestyle, just how far he has strayed from the naive, beautiful, innocent boy that he was at the beginning of the story. So there is a tediousness to Dorian's life. Wilde shows this lifestyle to be a kind of hell on earth. Dorian's life is reduced to an endless pursuit of pleasure. He will never achieve any satisfaction, any in-depth satisfaction. Okay, now obviously the climax of the novel we read yesterday is Basil's death. Wilde strays from the traditional Faustian tale in that Dorian does not seem to want to repent. He is not in agony at the moment of his damnation. In fact, he is almost embracing the role of the hunter and the hunted here, making Basil an animal at the time of his death. He stabs Basil to death and knows that he can get away with it because Basil was supposed to leave for Paris, so nobody is expecting him in London. And Dorian takes pleasure in the fact that he's getting away with yet another terrible crime. So this is different from a typical Faustian story where the main character who's given away his soul recognizes and is in agony over the corruption of his inner self. Okay, the book then moves on to Alan Campbell, a new character. So in chapter 14, when Dorian wakes up the morning after the murder, he shudders at first when he remembers the preceding night. However, Dorian does not feel regret or guilt at that point. He pities himself for having had to go through such a terrible act. He thinks of the inconvenience and the suffering the murder has caused him, no one else, and he never feels sorry for what he has done. Dorian has become a cold and unfeeling man, and the reader at this point is certainly losing sympathy for him. He's extremely self-centered. Dorian then goes to find Alan Campbell to help him dispose of the body. Alan is a distinguished scientist with access to a laboratory. Dorian blackmails Alan into helping him dispose of Basil's body. We don't know the nature of the secret Dorian holds over Alan, but you can assume that Dorian has known Alan for many years. The two are very close. They've had some kind of a falling out. Possibly this relationship is romantic. It must be something that causes Alan to feel that he must comply with Dorian's demands to get rid of this body. Dorian, at this point, has surpassed Lord Henry in the ability to manipulate others. He has, in fact, become a monster. Okay, so again, the novel never explicitly reveals how Dorian is able to blackmail Campbell, but Dorian threatens to send a letter revealing some secret if Campbell refuses to help him get rid of the body. Okay, furthermore, earlier in the text, Dorian's reputation is tarnished by rumors of homosexual relationships with other men. So nothing ever directly stated, but the innuendo is there that Campbell has to comply or Dorian will reveal his secrets. And they must be bad enough that he would be ostracized from Victorian society. All right, so some questions to think about. Why does Dorian blame Basil and not Lord Henry for all that has transpired? He holds Basil accountable for painting this picture in the first place. He says that is the reason that he has become a sinful person. He does not implicate Lord Henry. Okay, and then you might want to think about as well, will Dorian ever really regret his choices? Like the original Dr. Faustus does, who is terribly regretful at the end of his story at having been ensnared in the devil's clutches. Okay. All right, chapter 15, Dorian attends a party where he flirts and socializes. Mostly he is just bored and agitated at the tediousness of the whole event. While Dorian is initially able to act normally and greet everyone at the party calmly, when Lord Henry begins questioning him about his whereabouts the previous evening, he becomes uneasy. Dorian is afraid that Lord Henry suspects that something is wrong, and he, of course, wants to hide his crime. Dorian's paranoia intensifies when he remembers that he did not dispose of Basil's bag and clothes. Now, on your study guide, number 2 for chapter 15 asks you, what is the significance of the Florentine cabinet? And what does the diction in the description of the cabinet reveal about its contents? So here, Dorian's eyes fall on this cabinet, and it looks like it, quote, as though it held something that he longed for, yet almost loathed. The diction is used to describe the cabinet, shows craving, longing, and addiction. So there's got to be something in the cabinet that Dorian is fixated on. When he opens it, he finds an odorous green waxy paste. This description and the way that Dorian is fixated on the box make it clear that Dorian is now an opium addict. This has got to be opium and drugs that Dorian is addicted to, which would have been common in the Victorian period. It's likely that at the end of the chapter, Dorian is hiring a carriage to take him to an opium den in a distant part of town. Okay. All right. Now, what's coming up next? Dorian will again run into James Vane, Sybil Vane's sort of scary, physically intimidating brother. And he will have to escape violence only by denying his identity. So in Victorian literature, sometimes characters make an early appearance only to reappear later in some kind of a plot twist. And that's what's going to happen now in chapter 16.